Now we start with Iran, where it says it will host China and Russia for trilateral talks on its nuclear program this Tuesday. The meeting will take place in Tehran as Europe threatens to reimpose sanctions. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman confirmed the talks at a press conference on Monday. He said the discussions will focus on nuclear issues and growing international pressure. The move comes amid renewed global concerns over Iran's atomic activities and stalled diplomacy with the West. We're now joined by our guest, Andrew K.P. Lung, to discuss this in further detail. He is a China strategist and he joins us live from London. Andrew, what further details can you give us about this story? There's been growing concerns, obviously, about Iran's nuclear program. The US claimed to have struck in it, and there's been conflicting reports of how damaged that nuclear program truly is. But what do you think these talks will bring us?
This highlights certain important contradictory dynamics in the situation, because Iran, like North Korea, doesn't want to use the nuclear armament to invade other countries or bomb other countries. It's only a reflection of their concern about their national security in face of American aggression. If we talk about nuclear armament, nuclear warheads, there is no comparison with the warhead stockpile of Russia and also the United States. Russia has got over 5,500 nuclear warheads, and Americans got about 5,000. And the third country, as China, is less than 1,000. And then compare with these smaller aspiring nuclear states, it's only just a handful. There's no comparison. So for those countries with a very weak power to defend themselves, the nuclear armament is regarded as an insurance policy.
Andrew, critics would say that Iran has showed certain types of aggression in the region, including that of arming proxies like the Houthi rebels, Hezbollah, Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Also, the IAEA previously, when they were still in cooperation, said that Iran was enriching uranium to weapons grade. So how could you say that Iran does not want a nuclear weapon? That's what critics of this situation would, in fact, say.
Well, Iran's alliance with the Houthis, with other proxy forces, do not depend on its nuclear armament. Of course, it's supplying other arms like drones and or even missiles, but that is a different question from the nuclear capability. The nuclear capability, as I was highlighting, is in face of great power, the United States aggression, using its military, overarching military, to contain Iran in the context of its geopolitics in the Middle East. Because if you look at the Middle East, the United States wants to ally ideally with Saudi Arabia against its perceived greatest enemy, along with Israel, which is, of course, Iran.
Yes.
And of course, at the back of it all is the historic confrontation between the Houthis and the Sunnis. But then recently, in recent years, there is a historic rapprochement between Iran and Saudi Arabia, brokered by China. But still, Trump wants to exert his influence in the Middle East along with Israel, and Iran is perceived as the greatest enemy. Then both Iran, Israel, and the United States wants to defend Iran of its
Andrew, please forgive me. I'm just going to interrupt you for just 1 second. Apologies. If we can get back to the potential of these talks that are going to happen tomorrow in the Iranian capital, what do you think? What do you make of the significance here of China and Russia joining Iran in these talks? Is this a sign of an emerging bloc against Western pressure, do you think?
Well, it's more than that. I don't think that China, Russia, or other countries want nuclear proliferation. It's not in China's interest because nuclear proliferation would provoke similar proliferation in East Asia, including Japan, for example, and even South Korea. So it's no good for China. It's not good for the rest of the world because any nuclear conflict is likely to escalate into a global conflagration. So I think that it's both in China and Russia interest to broker a deal which would give the Iranians some degree of insurance for its national security, as in the case of similarly in North Korea. But it's not to empower them to possess nuclear weapons, because if for example, Iran possesses nuclear weapons, it's likely to provoke other countries in the neighborhood, and there would be a race towards nuclearization. It's in nobody's interest. But then, of course, obliterating the Iranians' nuclear power in terms of energy generation entirely is again worsen the national security concern of Iran. So I think that's why the previous nuclear deal brokered by the European countries together with the so-called six-party talks, not the six-party talks, the nuclear deal for Iran, but that was torn up by Trump. So I think that we should be back to the table and creating something similar which could satisfy the security concerns of all countries.
Okay, Andrew, you are staying with us to discuss